This learning is Le'ili Nishmas Broya Bas Chananya, Maseches Demai, Perek, Mishnayos. Otzitz Nokov, a flower pot that has a hole in it, Saharei Zekaretz, produce that grows in it, it's the same as if the produce grew directly from the ground, and a person is chayiv minatera to separate trumas and meisers from it, and therefore, Tara Mea Aretz al Otzitz Nokov, if someone separated the trumas and meisers from produce that grew from the ground, for produce that grew in this flower pot that has a hole in it, or may otzitz nakov ala aretz, or if someone separated the trumas and maestros from produce that grew in this flower pot that has a hole in it, for produce that grew directly from the ground, the halacha is that trumasei truma, the truma is a good truma because both of them are chayev in trumas and maestros minatero. The Mishnah continues, mishe'eni nakov al hanakov, if someone separated the trumas and maestros from the produce that grew in a flower pot that did not have a hole in it, and there the person is not chayiv in trumas and maestros minatera, and the person separated the trumas and maestros from that produce for produce that grew in a flower pot that did have a hole in it. So the halacha is truma. The truma is good truma, and veyachzer v'yitrum, and the person has to separate trumas and maestros again. So the reason the truma is because we don't want that the person should separate truma, and then afterwards people just treat it like it's regular food, and that will lead people to be mezalzel, to not be careful in trumas. At the same time, it's not a valid truma, because the pile that it was separated from is not chayiv in trumas and maestros minatera, and the person is separating it for a pile of produce that is chayiv in trumas and maestros minatera. The Mishnah continues, min hanakov al she'eni nakov, if someone separated the trumas and maestros from produce that grew in a flower pot that did have a hole in it, so it's chayiv in trumas and maestros minatera, for produce that grew in a flower pot that does not have a hole in it, which is only chayiv in trumas and maestros midirabanan. So here the halacha is that truma, the truma is valid truma, since the person is chayiv to separate for the produce that grew in the flower pot without the hole in it. The person's chayiv to separate midirabanan. However, however, the kohen should not eat that truma until he separates a truma from it. And the reason is because when the person separated this truma for the produce that grew in the flower pot that doesn't have a hole in it, so it's not really a real truma, since that produce is not chayiv in truma minatera. So it comes out that this truma that was separated is really tevel, and so the person has to separate trumas and maestros from it.